The Ready Set Grow podcast is sponsored by Ag Expert, software designed for Canadian agriculture. Visit them today at agexpert.ca. Welcome to the Ready Set Grow podcast, where we like to showcase startups and early stage companies, as well as visit with innovators in the agriculture and food industry. Today we're here with Diana Laternes and guest Micheal McInerney, CEO and co-founder of StrongBó Agritech. Thanks for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and StrongBó Agritech?
Yeah, so thanks very much for having me. So again, I'm Micheal McInerney, and maybe you might be able to deduce from my accent and my name that I'm not a native to Canada. So I'm actually just, I'm from Ireland. I've just arrived about 3 months ago. And back in Ireland, I set up a company called StrongBó Agritech, and our mission is to increase the visibility and the transparency into the beef production process. I'm coming from a strong beef background, and I'm also an engineer. So it's really it was something that was pretty, I suppose, down my alley when it came to developing technology because of the information that I had from both sectors. And really, what we're doing is we looked at the problem that there isn't enough information in the beef sector, especially in comparison to the dairy industry, where in the dairy industry you'll see key performance indicators like milk volume and milk density all the way down into individual animals. But in the beef industry, you don't really have that sort of resolution. So we developed an automatic weighing platform connected to our smart data hub that's able to get all of the information that we need from the herd and then send that up to the cloud, and we're analyzing it there so that we can give beef producers in Ireland and Canada really accurate information on their operation and drive efficiency through data analytics. So that's from a high level, that's what we're doing. Part of the transition over to Canada, we identified that there's a very good market here for our technology. And at the moment, we're based in Ontario and working with some early adopter customers here that are very interested in the technology, and so much so at times that they've gone out and attempted to make this happen for themselves and to drive it on their own. But there's huge technical undertaking there, so it doesn't always work out for these guys. That's a little bit of a recap of what we're at. Have you any maybe more in-depth questions?
Yeah. So how do you market to the farmers? Do you actually go to the farms and talk to them, or do they get a hold of you, or how can they get in touch with you?
So when I was back in Ireland, it was a different story because I grew up in Ireland and I knew every farmer in our region. And once you go outside of the region, you'll know somebody and it's a small community. And I could go directly to people. Since coming to Canada, all of the customers that we have here have come directly through our website because I don't have that network. Now we're developing partners with other organizations around that might be able to connect us with more and more people. But at the moment, all of our customers are coming actually directly to our website, which is great because we don't need on-site salesmen. But we really want to be able to fine-tune that in the future now.
Mm-hmm. And so what do you do with the data that comes off there? Like, what kind of decisions are made from the data?
So depending on what variation of our product you buy, I'll focus on one of our high-end products, which would be our bovine hub. So our bovine hub takes full body weight measurements, and it also takes the EID measurement, the EID tag from the animal. So from that, we're able to get live weight gain for individual animals. So straight away, you'll be able to identify at-risk animals or underperforming animals. We have a very interesting story about how we developed our illness identification software just through iterative designs from the software perspective and an add-on then from the machine learning side. But we're able to identify these underperforming animals very quickly. For example, an animal that's sick shows a very drastic change in its activity. It shows a change in its weight gain very early into the sickness, and a lot of the time even before the farmer can identify it themselves. So it gives the farmer the early notice that it needs to make a decision and to prevent further illness. On top of this, we're also driving analytics from at a herd level. So we're able to look at your entire herd, see how the animals are performing at a herd level. So you're able to make decisions on, what time of the day you're feeding and what's in your feed stuff. And really, what that morphs into is on-site dietary research, and that's really interesting aspect of what we're doing, is because up until now, all of the research that's been conducted for beef production has been done in a different environment, done in an isolated setting. And really, the power of our technology enables every small farmer in the country to essentially turn his small farm into a micro research facility, and to get the power of a large research facility right on his own farm, and it's targeted right for that particular farm. So it's really powerful when it comes to improving efficiencies.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of return on investment do you see happening with this technology?
So if you get our bovine hub, which I was talking about there, our higher end product, there's a 30-month return on investment. It all depends on what sort of decision making you're able at and what your farming operation. So larger feedlots wouldn't be able to make decisions on individual animals when they're selling, whereas smaller operations tend, particularly in Ireland, they would be able to do that. So there is a little bit of variation with some farms being able to make decisions that other farms aren't. But the larger feedlots then benefit when they're able to get information on an awful lot of animals with very little hardware. So we're looking at 30 months on average between the two different settings.
That's really interesting. What other kinds of advice or things can you provide to producers on this front, like that you found with your data or that you found with your technology that can help with the industry?
So I suppose some of the learnings that we would have gotten, that something that you could apply to everyday farming, is really the power of getting information. So regardless of whether you're using our technology or not, I'd be urging every farmer to go out there and to drive some bit of data from your farm, and to start lead yourself down the right path, really, when it comes to technology adoption. If you have a manual system, use it as regularly as you can within reason. Because we found that you could buy a whole lot of animals at a particular weight, at a particular age, and you put them into one pen and you feed them with the same diet. And when you measure them after 2 months' time, some of them have performed while some of them haven't, and some of them are on a different trajectory than others. And you really need, if you're moving them from another pen or moving them onto a new, if you've got a system where you move them through your facility, you really need to have that information at that time to be able to make a decision on whether this animal should go a few weeks earlier than another. So that's what I'd be urging farmers to do, regardless of what we have with our technology. Obviously, our technology fits in there and says, well, we're going to get this information automatically for you, an awful lot more accurate and a lot safer, so you don't need to harm yourself, you don't need to disrupt the animals. There's a lot of benefits to getting the system in there and getting it live. So there's a win-win there, really.
Mm-hmm. And so, do you use an app on your phone to track this information, or?
So we do. We have an app on our phone. We find that I personally don't tend to use the app for going through the information. I love using it on my desktop, but of course you can use it through the app. Our app was actually developed for integrating with the hardware originally, and we have a dual purpose for the app. But the information is sent through a cellular communication all the way to the cloud. We analyze it there and we send it back to the end user in a usable format through our Google platform.
That is interesting stuff. Michael, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think it's really cool. Have you seen any differences since you've come to North America from Ireland?
Well, the scale is completely different, and I think that's something that's increasing also. So we see that farms are getting bigger, and they're much bigger. So the first farm that I visited out here was I worked it out 30 times bigger than the largest farm that I was on in Ireland. So it's it's a step change for me. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but at the same rate, we were targeting large farms in Ireland, so it was a very welcome sight to see a large farm out here, and to see the scale. Farms that need to hire people to constantly go and monitor animals, and constantly look for illnesses. These are expenses that our technology gets rid of. So there's a set of pains that we see in the beef industry out here that most certainly aren't there in Ireland. So it's at times very welcome to see the differences.
Do you have certain feed conditions that you use, or feed? I'm trying to think of the word here.
So, dietary related information.
Yeah.
So we tend to keep out of the diet related information because it's not our core competency, but farmers also have a very close relationship with their nutritionists. So it's not something that we see ourselves fitting into. But what we do is we get the information from the diet. So as opposed to giving information and giving advice on diet, we take that information. So whatever diet is being fed to the animals, we take that because we use it in our machine learning algorithms to identify which part of the feed stuff is most dominant for, or which contributes best for feed efficiency. So when we see a variance in one, we can identify and relate to the output, the change in the output. So it's accurate information we need from that side, from the nutrition side.
Mm-hmm. Do you see any challenges with implementing this type of technology on the farm?
Yeah, I do. I suppose when we're trying to be the first, when this is the first attempt there is to commercialize a piece of hardware to get live information from animal performance, there's always going to be a big challenge in getting farmers to adopt technology. But that's not what I see as the biggest problem. By large, farmers that I come across are very tech savvy. Where I see some of the biggest issues is really with the hardware and the reliability. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, hardware is very hard. And you'll go into other industries and you can put a piece of technology any place in the world and it won't be subjected to the same harsh environment that you'd see in a feedlot. Animals are relentless, they're heavy, they're strong, they're tough, and they'll break everything they come in contact with. So that was something that we had to design around, and it just follow us on LinkedIn, and you'll see some of the design iterations we've gone through. And yeah, I'll always saying it. Hardware is hard, so that's probably where I see some of the biggest issues. So on top of that, you've got a problem where the more engineering you put into something to make it more robust, the more expensive it gets. So we also need to be able to hit a price point and make sure that we're able to get technology on farms for a reasonable price. So we have to balance that equation so that we're not over engineering something and making something overly complex. So there's a balancing act there, and it's something that does keep us awake at night sometimes, trying to keep it correctly balanced.
Huh, that is interesting stuff. I just think it's a neat technology that that people would really benefit from. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think yeah, more research is being done on this front. In terms of what's next.
Yeah, so we're working with the ICBF in Ireland, which is the Irish Cattle Breeding Federation. So they do a lot of research in Ireland on diet efficiency and genetic. They do a lot of genetics on beef animals. So our technology is in their leading research facility at the moment. So we're constantly looking at where we'll be able to develop our hardware to suit the changing research. When it comes to development on our own end, we're developing our software constantly. Our electronics are changing constantly to make it better and more efficient and cheaper. And as I said, on the hardware side of things, you know, we're pretty happy where we are, but I can see something changing in the future. There's always something to be improved.
Yeah. Is there a lot of people doing this in this space? Different companies?
There is surprisingly a lot of companies that have tried to do this. There's without naming names, there is a lot of, we have competitors, probably one on every continent on the planet. And yeah, so it's not a new solution to the problem that we have. We've come up with a way that makes it commercially viable, so we're able to commercialize our product and develop a support network and connect the information in a way that's most useful for farmers. And again, we've found a way to get the price point right so that farmers are able to tap this technology. Because when you're looking for tens of thousands of dollars for a piece of technology, it's just not going to fly in an industry that has such tight margins as the beef industry. It's not going to happen. You're really limiting yourself to the research setting, and that's not a market we're going for. We're conducting research in Ireland for research purposes, but we really want to hit the commercial market.
Is there anything else you want to share with producers or the industry in terms of this technology?
I suppose it's very. I don't want to give a big blanket statement, but if there are producers that are interested in improving efficiency, I'd say to log onto our website at www.strongbo-agtech.com, and you'll be able to get contact information for anyone on our team, and we can discuss the technology and discuss the application and get producers producing more efficiently. So yeah, definitely log on.
So I know that starting your own business can be really difficult. Is there any advice that you'd give to any sort of future entrepreneurs that we have listening?
What I would say is the best thing that we ever did was we did our market research. We did it extensively, and it's something that I love standing over all the time, because I can pull stats from more or less any industry connected to what we're doing. So I'd be saying doing market research, and you can't really go wrong then. I find that it's the best tool in my belt at the moment is the amount we know about the stats and where things are going. So, you know, a lot of times when investors are talking to us about where we see the future of beef, for example, we've done a lot of research into what countries are increasing meat production and red meat production, and what countries are declining in red meat production, and globally, really, where is it going? And there's an illusion out there at the moment that beef is in decline, when it's absolutely not. It's there's a lot of information out there to suggest that it's thriving. It's one of the more stable industries at the moment, but it's just gotten a bad rap in the last couple of years. And something that should probably be highlighted, trying to figure out how to make that and bring that to the surface can be difficult at times.
Yeah. I also know that you guys won some awards recently. Do you just want to talk about those a little bit?
Yeah. So back to Ireland and back to our connections, you know, you don't win awards just by showing up on the day. It's something you need to build a connection. You need to get a good reputation. And that's something that we did in Ireland before I moved out here. So we won, I think it was 3 out of 6 awards at the Cork Summer Show just in June this year. And then back in the ploughing championship last month, just gone, we won 2 awards at the National Ploughing Championship. So that was a really big deal for us. The National Ploughing Championship is one of the biggest agricultural shows in the world. And we were lucky enough to get into the final 20 in the innovation arena, and lucky enough to win two categories. So delighted with that entirely, and we've got a great amount of publicity. So a big shout out to the guys in Enterprise Ireland if any of them are listening.
That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing. Is there anything else you want our, I guess, listeners to know before we head out?
I know. I think we covered an awful lot. I suppose encourage them to go onto our website and connect and follow us on LinkedIn and see what we're doing. And I'm sure it will be of interest to any large beef producer. That's for sure, large or small beef producers.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for joining us on the show,
Thank you
and
very much.
and thank you for our listeners for tuning into the podcast.